Yay! All right, let's see. A little bit early. Let's see who jumps on. We are today for Tuesday Talks with Lauren. We're talking about travel therapy today. Caitlin! Yay! Awesome. Happy Tuesday, everyone. We have a massive thunderstorm happening outside. Hi, Scott. Welcome to, I know it's snowing in some places, but it's thunderstorming like crazy here. So you'll just see crazy lightning behind me. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Tuesday Talks with Lauren. I'm so excited. So let me know if sound is good. If everything's good. Today, like I said, we were talking about travel therapy. So I asked if you had any questions or anything. Oh, yay, let's go Pens. If you had any questions or anything like that, to submit them. And I got a ton of people that are super interested. Hey, everyone. That are super interested in travel therapy. So I got a lot of similar questions that I see often and that I get often. So I'll just start and cover them and answer as we go, questions as we go too. So I have a list of questions that I'm going to cover. If you have anything throughout. Hi.
How's it going?
Good, how are you? Then just let me know and we can chat. Or we can answer as we go. So just to kind of start off, again, my name is LG the Fit OT, Lauren Grabowski. I'm an occupational therapist specializing in pediatrics. I'm in an outpatient setting right now. So I...
It's not in the rain.
Yes. You too. Oh, perfect. Yes. So we actually are going to talk about new grads. And starting traveling therapy. So we'll get into that first. So I was a traveling therapist almost exactly 2 years ago. I started my travel career. So I started out in an inpatient rehab unit in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at a children's hospital. And then I knew that I always wanted to be a traveling therapist, or at least travel part of my career. So then I ventured off and I was in Florida, a couple different places in California, and now I'm back in Florida. So I did decide to stop traveling-ish, and I can get into that too, for the time being, but it was the most amazing, incredible experience, and I'm so grateful for it. So that's a little bit of my story. And one of the biggest questions that I just received and I wanted to cover first was, can new grads travel? So obviously the answer is yes, in my perspective. Depending on who you talk to, those answers will fluctuate. But I think if you do, as new grads, I think if you know what to look for, you can ask the right questions, and you're aware of different mentoring opportunities and things like that, then you can definitely make it happen. Ultimately, as the traveling therapist, you get a say in where you go and what clinic you're at. So you will call them and interview them. And if they have other therapists and they're willing to give you a little bit more flexibility and time to learn, then I think it's a great place and it's a great opportunity for new grads, just as it is for any graduate or any post grad or anything like that. So I'll kind of cover more into like the questions that you ask, or that you can ask, um, just to be aware. If you are a new grad, I think that you go about it a little bit differently than if you would if you have a ton of experience. But I think that as a new grad, especially in this day and age where we can connect so easily to other people and ask questions and learn in so many different environments, that new grads can absolutely do it. So I had a lot of questions about how do I start. So traveling therapy can be a little bit scary. I mean, you're traveling, you are traveling by yourself and going, entering some situations completely independently. So it can be nerve-wracking and it can be hard. But the most important thing that I have learned is to have a good recruiter. So you can reach out to a couple different traveling companies or just stick with one recruiter that you really like initially to like start it off, kind of scope out the area, make sure that you're talking to a couple different recruiters to start with, just so you can start to build that rapport and find one that you really click with and that you really trust. So there's tons of traveling therapies companies out there that you can talk with, and I'll name a couple of the ones that I've worked with and some of the ones that I'm a fan of, and I can actually connect you with my recruiter towards the end of the video, so definitely stay tuned for that. So you would reach out to them, kind of say, I'm interested in traveling. They'll go through the whole spiel of what you need to do for licensing, where there's a lot of jobs, where there's a lot of opportunity, and you kind of just go back and forth, and it's a very collaborative process of where you would like to be, what you would like to be doing, what setting, what area, and then like your start date. So one of the things that I learned, especially while traveling, is that time moves so quickly, and things move super quickly. So a week's time in travel life is a really long time because things happen so quickly that if I wouldn't reach out to a recruiter and really start solidifying plans. If it is your first run, I would say like 1 to 2 months in advance. But other than that, sometimes I've left I've figured out that my contract's ending, found a new job, moved, and completely got fully resituated and started a new job in less than 2 weeks. So time moves so fast, and that's something that you do potentially have to be aware of. If sometimes it seems like things are taking forever, or you're like, what am I going to do? I'm out of a job in 4 weeks or 3 weeks. But really, the craziest things can happen, and you could be in a job 1 week and then in a completely different job the next week. So, I wouldn't start reaching out to that recruiter. I mean, obviously, earlier is always possible, but the most work that you're going to be able to get done is if you kind of reach that 1 to 2 month mark. And that's usually whenever they start really taking you seriously of looking for jobs and everything like that. And jobs change so frequently that and go so quickly that they usually are looking for someone to start within 4 weeks. So how long? Tina asked, how long are contracts typically? So usually they're 3 months. So about 12 weeks. So a little bit less than our field work. 1 week less than our field work. So that's how I always kind of thought about it. Is if I can make it through field work, and you can do anything for 3 months. If you get stuck in a place that you're not really a big fan of, or you're in a setting that you don't really fully enjoy, 3 months isn't a long period of time. And if you're in a good location or you take the opportunity to travel on the weekends, then it's a really good thing, and it goes super super fast, so fast. So they're usually 3 months. There's always an opportunity. Well, not always. There's usually an opportunity to extend. And you can extend some. I've extended some contracts. Some of my contracts have gotten cut short because in the travel world, you are filling a place, typically for a full-time employee. So if they hire another full-time employee, they obviously end your contract early. And it's nothing personal. It's anything about that. But sometimes contracts do end early. So a little fun tip, I usually always ask for a 30-day notice in case that happens. So that just gives me a little flexibility in timing, because sometimes there'll be like a 24-hour notice or a 2-week notice, which is fine. But whenever I was living across the country I'm originally from Pittsburgh, and whenever I was in California, I didn't want to be left. I just felt so much more comfortable with that 30-day notice. And that 30-day notice works both ways. So if I was in a place that I didn't like, or I needed to go home, or I needed to leave, then I know it's scary, but it's really like, and that's the thing, is that I wanted to try to convey towards the end that it sounds scary and it sounds a lot and it's stressful, and honestly it can be at times. I wanted to make this talk like super real. It can be, but it's completely doable, and half the time you just go into okay, I need to do this mode, and your recruiter has your back and is helping you the whole way. Then you don't even realize how quickly you check things off. So, depending on the next question was about how do you go about choosing a location or a setting or place. So, like I said, I really focus in pediatrics. That's kind of my heart and soul. I love peds therapy. I love working with the kids. So I was a little bit more strategic in some of my places and some of my placements because I wanted peds. There's not always a ton of opportunity in peds, especially hospital based or outpatient. Usually schools you can find some good placements and a lot of placements, but if you're looking for like outpatient or hospital based, it's a little bit more challenging. So I went in with the I want to stay in peds if I can. So I ended up in a couple different places that weren't always the best. So like for example, I wanted peds, so I ended up taking a peds position in the middle of the desert in California with the rattlesnakes and spiders and completely lived in the high desert. And like for 3 months it was a really good thing and I loved it and I learned a lot and I learned a lot about myself. But it was in the desert. So not everyone, there wasn't a hop in place. A lot of people I know, a lot of people wouldn't have picked to live there, so that's why they were looking for a traveler. But ultimately, it was an amazing opportunity. I met friends that I still talk with this today and would want to go back to visit and everything like that. So it always works out. So but then there's another time where I was like, I want to be in LA. I want to be in LA. So I looked for placements in LA. So it depended, you can go either way, depending on, usually that's kind of what leads your search with your recruiter is if you're looking in a certain location or you're looking for a certain job. I knew when I first moved to Florida, I knew my next stop I wanted to be California. So I just looked at all the jobs in California and then I kind of delved down and then I was like, oh, well, I really want peds. So then I looked at the peds jobs and then that's kind of where I fell into that Apple Valley high, like the desert contract. So usually those are the two things, so I'll get into Triumph and kind of what I'm doing now a little bit at the end. Um, so then, so those are the two things that kind of drive your search, either the location or the setting. Next, some people asked about reimbursement for different settings, whether if you're in like home health versus SNF. Um, Usually I would like to say pay depends on the location. So my pay, California was a little bit, because cost of living, like it all evens out. But my pay in California was higher than my pay in Florida or my pay in Pittsburgh, or Pennsylvania, just because I think that there's so many fluctuating factors. And then like Apple Valley was willing to pay a lot more because it was in the middle of the high desert and they didn't get a lot of people. So, I think reimbursement and your housing stipend and all of the pay financial things does completely depend on where you are and what you're doing. So I don't think it may fluctuate a little bit by setting, but I think location kind of dictates that a little bit more. The next question was about housing. So I chose in all of my different contracts, I chose to I chose to find my own housing. So most companies might offer you that they'll find you housing, but if you kind of take initiative and go out on your own to find your housing, then you usually can pick the location that you want to be in. You can pick if you want roommates or not, and you can pick how much you pay. So you can try to find a place that's a little bit cheaper, and then your housing stipend can kind of just go into your income, which is super nice as well. But there's a ton of groups on Facebook with for housing. Like there's the housing traveling gypsy housing Facebook group. I'm in about 4 of them, and people post either that they're looking for travelers to fill their place, or there's just a big communication piece. If someone's looking for a place, they can post on there too. So I found a couple places through there. I have used Craigslist and oh my goodness. I have used Craigslist to find housing. Obviously you have to be careful just with anything, but So I usually I chose to go out on my own to find my own housing rather than have them find it for me. So that was, and it worked out, and it was a really great thing. Sometimes I lived by myself, sometimes I lived with roommates, and it was great. Of course, I'm so grateful. So, um, hi, I miss you guys. Um, I hope she's doing so well, and I hope you are as well. I miss you guys. So, I kind of was flying through a couple of the questions. If you have any more questions about traveling therapy or anything that you would like me to discuss a little bit more, just write in the comments. If not, yes, I actually have heard about people traveling and living in a camper, and I actually have traveled not with people, but we've gone to some of the same locations um, in there. So, and I honestly think that would be an amazing thing as long as you find, as long as you find that sometimes it's easier to find campgrounds is what I was thinking. And whenever I continue to travel, I was like that or get a tiny home. I think that would be the perfect thing for traveling, because then you just have to find different lots, and then even if you have a car, you could live a little bit outside the city or outside of somewhere. So there's actually someone on Instagram, I totally forget her name. I think it's like a traveling something that I follow, and she's either a traveling nurse or a traveling therapist that fully does it in her van. She has like a van or a camper that she does it in. So it's definitely possible and definitely good. What is your advice for a nervous soon to be grad? So soon to be grad, congratulations. If you're looking from a traveling perspective, I think my best advice would be to find a company that has a good new grad program, and the recruiter that I usually recommend has a really good one. And then two, don't be afraid to learn and find mentors. So it doesn't have to be your typical mentor that works with you. I think reaching out to people, I get a lot of questions daily of people looking for mentorship or just kind of bounce ideas off of, which is great. So look for those resources. I've done AOTA, Emerging Leaders Program. That's a great opportunity for mentoring. So I think just as new grads, take it step by step and just never lose the idea that you're going to continue to learn. So don't let your nervousness kind of shut you off from learning. You're still learning. It's okay not to know everything. I'm still learning and asking questions every single day. So you absolutely succeed if you kind of go into it with that mindset. And don't put a ton of pressure on yourself. That's what new grads all the time. Even now, I do the same thing. Put a ton of pressure on yourself, but you got this. Shipping a car. Yes. So it depends. So the question was, do you know if they assist with the car, or would it be more expensive? Or would that be more expensive to ship? So I did ship my car to California and then back to Florida. So I shipped it twice cross country, and it was about $1,000 each way. And the company that I worked with didn't pay for relocation costs, unfortunately. I did get a couple bonuses that were supposed to help, but it wasn't. I mean, it was like $500, and compared to just $1,000 to ship my car, like it really didn't help. The nice thing is that you get to write everything off on taxes, but it can definitely be expensive. So, but you just have to kind of weigh it out, because I rent my cars, or not rent, I lease my cars. So for wear and tear in my miles, it was more cost effective for me to ship my car. And there's a lot of good dealer. I think I used shipacar.com or like shipacar something, and they go out and they kind of price compare and hook you up with the best offer. So it was worth it in my opinion, unless you wanted that kind of cross country road trip. So either one. But it definitely can get expensive. Aww. Oh my gosh, Chanel. I miss you guys. Okay. So, next question. I did get a question about if you can go abroad. I would absolutely love to as a traveling therapist. That was always one of my goals. I don't believe that there's any like overarching companies that send people abroad right now, because I know it's been in the talks, but I think from a therapeutic perspective, it's really hard to kind of get that licensing and everything worked out. I know people that go abroad and work, but it's not through like that traveling company in that traveling world that we know of in the United States. So I think it is a potential in the future, but right now I don't believe that there are companies that do that right now. Okay, yes, I will answer that. Oh, yes, I'll answer that right now. We covered all of the other ones. So, what questions do you recommend asking your recruiters? So, there are a lot of resources online. Recruiter-wise, I don't know. There aren't too many questions that I would ask them, and like until you start getting into those contract offers, then definitely always ask about the um, the notice time frame. So that clause of how much notice that they have to give you if a contract's ending. Like I said, I always ask for 30 days usually. Ask the breakdown of the prices or of the financials of it. So what you'll have is you'll have a taxable portion, then you'll have a housing stipend, and then you'll have a and incidentals, like food and incidentals stipend as well. So that taxable portion is going to look really small. It might be like $7 an hour, but you make up that money in your non-taxable housing and food stipend, which is really nice. And and that's why you see travelers and you hear that as a traveler you make a lot more money, or you have the potential to make a lot more money. So I think that's where that piece comes into play. So I would always ask about that. And then the bigger questions I think would be for the place that you're actually interviewing with. So whenever you're interviewing, I always ask like, what's the patient caseload like? Are there other practitioners, either OTs or other therapists that you're working directly with? You can specifically ask for time off. Hi. You can specifically ask for time off and write that in your contract if you have like a vacation plan or you need like time off. And as travelers, it is nice. I think as travelers, you are kind of expected to cover those holidays time periods. If you're in a contract at the time, it worked it out. So I was able to take like a whole month off over Christmas last year, which was amazing. Um, and but don't be afraid to ask for certain days or take some time, which is and just write it right into your contract. I would ask what the productivity or the expectations are is another good one. Kind of those similar, just regular interview questions. But I always, always, always ask what other therapists are you directly working with? And especially as a new grad, that's a huge question. Did I study this? No. Um, I that's a huge question. Those are big questions, and it can give you a big indication if you are going to be with other therapists. Because as a new grad, you typically would want one other therapists with you. So Madison, no, I just started. So I went through high school, and then I went into a 5-year OT program. So it was nice. Usually, you have to do a 4+2. And then so a 4-year undergrad and then a 2-year OT master's program. But consider myself very fortunate and blessed that I was in a 5-year program. So I went in as an undergrad and graduated with a master's in like 4.5 years, which was awesome. How do you know if you were getting lowballed? So I think that I definitely, what I typically did was ask around to other therapists in the area or online in those Facebook groups that I referenced, just to try to kind of get a feel of how much you're making. A lot of the recruiters will come at you with a pretty decent price, or at a pretty decent price point. And then I always say, if you're extending, or if you kind of learn things as you go, that gives you a little bit more flexibility in negotiations, because then you're in there and and they probably want to keep you so they don't have to train anybody else for that time period. So that's a good kind of thing to say as a bargaining chip if you want to. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, anytime. Really, anytime messages are great. I'm just kind of focusing on traveling therapy right now. But hopefully Tuesday Talks with Lauren, we can cover any topic. So, oh no, I lost my train of thought. Lowballed. So I would just kind of talk with them to kind of see, and then whenever you are in the actual setting, and if there's other traveling therapists, and you kind of create a good bond with them, you can definitely talk financials with them. I think in the travel world, that the financial part of it isn't as hush hush kind of as it is in other corporate facilities, which is nice because we're kind of all looking out for each other, and things like that. So, and just look at your experience, kind of stand up for yourself, just as if you're negotiating. And if you don't have, if you can't, or if that price point doesn't work for you, then just say that, and maybe they'll come back with something better. So I definitely don't be afraid to negotiate. Will any companies cover the cost of continuing education? Yes. So, and actually, which is super nice, the company that I use, and the recruiter that I typically recommend, they have a continuing education program that you're automatically enrolled in, and they can, and you can do some continuing ed. It's not amazing stuff, but still, at the end of the day, I've learned as a therapist, sometimes you just have to kind of get what you can get to get those hours. And then also the other thing is that Summit Education online. I've done that, and that's a really good deal. I think you can pay $300 and get unlimited CEUs in person, online, and like text, like reading, like getting actual articles to answer questions. And so that's a super great deal as well. And that's all a tax write-off, even if your company doesn't cover it. But sometimes you can work into your contract as well. Does traveling therapy companies typically assist with tuition reimbursement? Yes, there are some good programs out there. Depending on, like, the more contracts that you do, the more tuition reimbursement you can get. So Advanced Travel Therapy is the one that I typically recommend, and Cody Thalaker is my recruiter, and I can give you, if you text me and you're looking for a recruiter, message me, and I will send you over that information to get in direct contact with him. And I love that company because, one, Cody is the best recruiter that I've worked with, and always has your back and is always fighting for you. And then, two, they have an amazing new grad program and good mentors, which is also a huge thing. I even utilized it, and I was technically 2 years out, so I wasn't really technically a new grad, but even just to connect with other mentors, it was super great. They have a good continuing education program, and just kind of all around, it is a really good company. So that's the company that I went with. And like I said, whenever we're done with this, send me a message, and I will give you his direct contact. Awesome. So I think those were all of the questions. The travel company, favorite part. So overall, my favorite part of traveling has been the amazing opportunity to travel around, meet incredible people. Feel like I've had more experience in the last 2 years than a lot of therapists have in over the whole course of their practice, which is completely fine. It's just depending on what you're looking at or what you want as a therapist. So that was something that I've always wanted. I wanted to kind of see how different clinics ran, how reimbursement and how pay kind of fluctuated from place to place. I wanted to explore and kind of test my limits. Oh, I think that there was a question about traveling solo. I originally was really afraid to travel by myself. I thought that the only way that I was going to travel was if I traveled with someone or with a friend or another therapist. But I think if you go in the mindset that you're going to make this the best opportunity, you're going to learn and you're going to just kind of put yourself out there, meet friends, and do what you can, then it works out. I think that if you don't let the fear of traveling alone hold you back, because at the end of the day, you're going to be in a big place. It's not as hard to meet friends, or at least people to kind of hang out with, especially if you're in a highly populated area of other travelers. So you can go on those Facebook groups, you can connect with people online and see who's in the area and then meet up from them. I even use like Bumble and like Bumble BFF, and Bumble there's like a professional tab. I've met some other professionals that are just strictly looking for other travel or like other people that are travelers in the area. So I know that sometimes those apps have a negative connotation, but really you can utilize those to your benefit, which is awesome, and then end up meeting people there. So don't let that fear hold you back. I think traveling therapy is one of the amazing, exactly, always out network. Like those meetups is a great website. Um, and so don't ever let that hold you back. I think traveling is an amazing opportunity, and I definitely credit a lot of what I'm doing currently to my opportunities with traveling, and it was just an amazing experience. So I hope this gave you some insight and answered some of your questions. I think those are the biggest questions that I typically get whenever people find out that I was a traveling therapist. But it was an amazing, incredible opportunity. So let me know if you have anything else. I think so. My plan is to do Tuesday talks with Lauren every Tuesday. So I'll put out a poll to see what we want to talk about. Oh yeah. So Triumph is the one of the facilities. So currently I moved to Florida, and I technically stopped traveling, but I'm an independent contractor. So Triumph is one of the clinics that I work at. I currently work for 3 different clinics in the area, and I have some private clients of my own. So rather than going through a travel company right now, I'm an independent contractor, so I contract myself out. So that middleman is gone right now, which is nice. But I mean, it's been an amazing opportunity and a great way to learn. In the meantime. So Triumph is an amazing sensory gym that I work in down here in Florida, and I see incredible kids there, and I just absolutely love it. So that's kind of what I'm doing now, and that's kind of how my life as a traveling therapist transitioned into an independent contractor, and my own kind of business, contracting myself out. So that is kind of a little bit now a story of what I'm doing now, which is really fun and exciting. So, I think that is everything. So if you have any questions, like I said, next week I'll put a poll out in my story of what we should talk about. 2 things. I'm fluctuating between 2 ideas and see what people want to kind of chat about. So I hope this was helpful, and everyone enjoy the rest of your night. Happy Tuesday. Bye. Oh, I love you. All right, see ya.